Don't throw me a line, no, don't start that game. Don't throw me a line, yeah, remember the name. We won once, won twice, still you cross that line. Don't throw me a line.
Hi everyone from the Swan Inn in Knowle Sands. That's not by a beach, by the way. We're about as far away from the coast as we can be in the UK, in lovely Bridgnorth in Shropshire. You're probably thinking, what the hell was that song? Well, that's a song that we've written here at the Swan Inn, and we'll play you the whole thing at the end. In fact, we've even put a little video together to go with the song. So we've been meaning to start a video podcast for a long time because we have a lot to say at the Swan Inn, including today about how we've been trolled over the last few years, and also current topics such as business rates, pubs in general, the cost of living crisis, and other topics that have affected us here at the Swan Inn in Knowle Sands. And I'm sure they're probably affecting you too, especially in terms of the cost of living crisis. There's quite a lot to come in our video podcast, and oh my God, it is going to get lively with everything that's going on in the country. And as we reveal lots of behind the scenes information and put the record straight too about the Swan Inn in Knowle Sands, especially as we show you how we have been trolled and a lot of things that have happened to us along the way. So the topics we're going to discuss probably affect you too, as hardly anyone in the UK is shielded from the effects of these things that are going on at the moment. But we're also in our videos asking for suggestions for how to move forwards. Before you say sell or anything like that, we have tried on numerous occasions, but properties around here, for example, even nice brand new builds are just not selling at the moment, let alone pubs. So, for anyone who doesn't know anything about our backstory, we bought what appeared to be a lovely gastropub back in June 2019 in the rolling Shropshire Hills with outstanding elevated views of the River Severn, just 1 mile from the historic tourist town of Bridgnorth. Well, we love Bridgnorth, but don't get spelling it with an E in the middle, whatever you do, or the locals will jump on you online. Now, here we are out in a rural pub, but I can see some of the financial factors that affected rural pubs first and now affecting businesses in town as well. And I'm going to cover some of those topics in our videos. So there it is, stunning Bridgnorth, just 1 mile away from where we are here in Knowle Sands. Now, I've lived in Bridgnorth and the surrounding area for around 20 years, initially in Hightown. We really miss that place now. So apart from the surprising amount of dog shite all over the pavements compared with other areas, I couldn't fault Bridgnorth 20 years ago. It was a place where everyone said hello and smiled when they passed you in the street. But then we moved here to the Swan Inn, and there are still some lovely people, but we quickly became aware of the darker side online from day one. So we're going to have some fun with that in these videos, and those people were warned not to carry on. So we've been on quite a journey here since 2019 when we bought the pub. So we have a lot of subject material for all of our videos, and we now actually have planning permission for change of use to residential, but the story does not end there by any means. So, as part of our change of use planning application, we had produced an independent financial report that was demanded, and it was used to show that the Swan Inn is not financially viable, regardless of who owns it and runs it. So, what do we hear online a lot? Oh, but it was busy before the current owners. It was busy back in the day. Well, I'll reveal a lot of information about that, which will show you behind the smoke and mirrors and what the real situation is. I might even reveal some other issues in later episodes that will make your hair curl. But yes, we were fooled too, and I'm going to show you how I raised doubts before purchase in these videos, but they were dismissed, and then a whole catalogue of errors were made by other people we were paying professional services for. We absolutely carried out due diligence to the nth degree, and in fact, we nearly pulled out of the purchase because of issues that I thought I could see, but they were just dismissed. So, what are these videos going to be about? Well, they're aimed at a wide audience, not just people locally. So, I'm going to start with the following format in our videos and just see how that evolves over time. So, something topical nationally. So, today I'm going to talk about business rates and just what a rip-off they are and how we got rid of them recently. But also, what we were paying was extremely unfair compared to the other pub in the parish, owned by someone who was being on the parish council for many years and didn't just object to us having extra accommodation like they have to make our pub financially viable, but actually strongly objected and used those words. But a lot more on that to come. So we're going to talk about the past, so something specific to us being here. So obviously online abuse and trolls in episode 1, and we're going to set the record straight. But I also want your stories, if you are local, about the Swan Inn that we can share. So please send them to me using the email address shown for this account on YouTube with your photographs. The future, what are we up to next? And you can feed into that by emailing us again about how we can include something for, say, the community in Knowle Sands, and a bit about what we have already tried there. But don't be boring and say pub, because I've already talked about the financial viability report. If you're interested, there's a lot more information. It's all on the planning portal online. Well, we have been through the planning journey from hell as well since we've been here, which has largely involved the parish council as well. But more revelations about that in the next video. So we have managed to survive and keep fighting, but I know there are a lot more battles to come. And some of you have probably been wondering how we've been able to fund all of that too. But mentally, we have kept going as we do have a lot of resilience and we will win in the end one way or another. So we also have a good sense of humour, but let's see if the trolls do when we call out their behaviour. Let's talk about business rates then. So what are they for? How much are they? Who pays them? And how do you get rid of them? Well, I'm not an expert on business rates. I've had to learn a lot about them since being here. I was shocked about a lot of what I found out, and I'm going to share this information with you. It is a very unfair system. I'm sure you've heard that before, but I had no idea just how unfair. In fact, I'm livid at the moment because while I've been preparing for this video, I have found out even more about the other pub in our parish, owned by the parish councillor. In fact, this information is so new that I'm sharing with you. I haven't even told my business partner yet. So God knows what he's going to say. But if you have a business or thinking of running one, then keep watching, because what I can tell you today may actually save you a lot of money. Now, if you're a business user, then this may help you make some informed choices about where you use and spend your money in the future, if you want to be fair. So, let me tell you. Business rates, what are they all about? What are they for? Well, I had a general idea before we bought here, and I just accepted that it was a cost that businesses had to pay and that they'd always been paid here, so they must be acceptable. So, I'll tell you how much they are next, but really, what the hell are they for and what do they really have to do with businesses? Now, I knew they were a bit like council tax, but we've always paid that here too. So we are billed twice, even though the owner's accommodation. It's physically impossible to have a kitchen up there. We live in there up in the eaves in what was basically the attic. You can barely stand up there. And I see a lot of pub owners moaning about this, how, it's totally unfair. It still applies even if there isn't a separate entrance. Well, I've just looked online, to see what the money raised from business rates is used for, and I'm just left feeling even more annoyed about this as well. And that's before I look at other businesses in this locality. So I did look online using AI on Google to find out what the money raised from business rates in the UK is used for. So business rates, otherwise known as non-domestic rates. So in the UK, it's collected by local authorities and primarily used to fund essential local services such as education. Well, that doesn't apply to us. Social care, police, fire services, and waste management. And it says, while historically paid into the central pool for redistribution, the current system allows local authorities to retain a proportion of the revenue to encourage local economic growth. Well, what a load of codswallop. We already pay for those services in the council tax, or we're already paying for those things as a private fee. Let me give you some examples. So, as well as the business rates, 13% of our council tax goes to the police. Fair enough. But if you ask AI an alternative question, and how are the police funded, then there are various ways, but it doesn't mention business rates at all. So 5.3% of council tax goes to the fire service. Again, fair enough. 2% to the parish council. Never even bloody heard of parish councils before we came here. And they've not treated us very well at all. But we're paying for all of this again on our business rate, but a much, much bigger amount. Well, I mean, our parish council, don't even bloody get me started about them. They hold all their meetings in secret. You can't find out when they are. There are no minutes. And it's the councillors that are our business rivals. They're only on that parish council, in my opinion, to serve their own planning interests. And I'm going to tell you a lot about that in the next video. But the government are actually planning to give parish councils a lot more powers when it comes to planning. And I've had a response, because I've been complaining, from Baroness Taylor of Stevenage, Parliamentary Under Secretary of State for Housing and Local Government, and another letter from the government, which I'm going to tell you about in the next video. So subscribe and be notified if you're interested in what a sham parish councils are. So you'll be notified if you do subscribe. Anyway, back to business rates. Waste management. Why are we paying for that in business rates? Are they having a laugh? I mean, what are they talking about? We were paying over £400 a month to a separate private waste company. We didn't have any of our bins emptied by the council, even though we were also paying for that again in our council tax. So what waste management are they talking about? They're just taking this money from businesses, and we're not benefiting at all. So that phrase about local economic growth does not ring true, especially around here. I mean, Shropshire Council is almost completely bankrupt and not supporting any local economic growth around here. They've stifled all of our plans to survive here in Knowle Sands, again. So more on that in the next video. So what does all of this mean? They're taking our money, a lot of money, and we get nothing back, and they give it away to other people, or just basically squander it, from what we've seen in the press. So they do not seem to be able to run a pee up in a brewery. So researching further, what else do business rates fund? Well, public transport is on the list. And you think, oh, that sounds okay. Well, there's one bus that passes here, the 125, and they are threatening to stop the service. So poor transport links contributed to us not being financially viable. How were customers and staff supposed to get here without public transport, which only ran at certain times during the week and on Saturdays? How were customers and staff supposed to get here, especially when hospitality staff tend to be quite young? Our chefs didn't even have cars and used taxis. Taxis were scarce in Bridgnorth. I don't know about the current situation, but a big complaint from people in our reviews, from people that were staying here who needed to get to weddings, etc., related to taxis. So I did a lot of research, put a list of numbers together, even created a separate website called bridgnorth.live with all of this and helping to support other businesses. But taxi companies advise that bookings need to be made a week in advance. A week! We often had last minute bookings for people staying here for a night on the town. So that advice was of no use, even though we did used to put it in our automated messaging system for when they booked. But they'd be left stranded in town, like for 2 nights in a row if they went out, or further afield at wedding venues. Now, if they were in town, they had no choice but to walk back down in the dark on a dangerous, fast country road. And that brings me on to the next thing that business rates fund. Apparently, infrastructure development. Well, there's none of that here. There are no footpaths, no street lighting for pedestrians. And that's been a long standing complaint. In fact, decades ago, a previous parish council was well on that. It's just the current one that seemed to be absolutely bloody useless because it doesn't affect them. We had 0 footfall past here and 80 hours of video footage to prove it as part of our planning application. And I'd run it for 24 hours at a time, so I wasn't cherry picking times of the day. But the council wouldn't even sample it to just to have a look to show that absolutely no one walked past in those 80 hours when we applied for change of use. So infrastructure again, the roads are breaking up everywhere, aren't they? But past here, we have heavy, full skip lorries and lorries full of wet sand from a quarry whizzing right past my conservatory, which is right on the roadside, down a hill, past a steep bend, deterring pedestrians, all contributing to this 0 footfall. So the money taken to give to the parish council from our business rates and council tax is also not spent in Knowle Sands. You can see that from some of the old minutes that are online. They're all spent down in Erdington, where they are based. They're taking money from us and funding services elsewhere. So the most accurate words published for what business rates are used for online are for retention and redistribution. We pay and we get nothing back. So I'm sorry if I'm sounding a bit shouty like a North Korean sat-nav, but we have had to deal with a lot of crap since we've been here. But with business rates, it all started when a letter came from the council when we were first here, with an application for us to fill in for small business relief. Now, I'd seen our rateable value on the sales particulars, and none of the people advising us at the time of purchase had raised an eyebrow. And the previous owners had actually paid, they'd employed a business rates specialist. So all must be fair, right? By the way, the previous owners, I can now see, were already getting the discount that I was being asked to apply for. So why? Why did we have to reapply? But more on these discounts later. So our rateable value was £21,500 per year. So when the bill came and the small business multiplier had been taken into account, it basically halved the amount of the rateable value. And then you get a further retail discount. But that still leaves really the best part of £1,000 to pay each month for seemingly nothing in return, as I've mentioned. Anyway, the demand for payment is made irrespective of whether a business has sold any goods or services. So if you're closed, you still pay it. If you're not economically viable, you still pay it. So you'd be paying that out of your own personal savings if your business can't. Because as soon as you're unable to pay, or you accidentally don't pay, which happened to us right at the start one month because I'd sent our only copy of the bill, because it was paper-based back then, to my accountants for something. And then the council, if you don't pay, if you miss a payment, send you a demand for the whole year, and with extra costs and threats of court action. So I had explained to them what had happened with my bill, that I was unable to pay because I couldn't find the details, but they didn't want to know. So who pays business rates? If only this were fair too. So pubs first. A lot of rural pubs do not pay business rates as they get rural relief. Now, councils do not go out of their way to tell pubs about this. I mean, I found out about this by accident. So if you have a rural pub and a local population of less than 3,000 people, then you can apply for rural relief and you pay zero business rates. So surely that applies to us, right? So if things weren't unfair enough, let's look at this. We have a population of just 447 people in Knowle Sands. So way less than the 3,000 to qualify for rural relief. But the council refused to give us the discount. Why? The rural pub has to also have a rateable value of less than £12,500. So that ruled us out at £21,500 and we had to pay it. We have a lot of redundant floor space, but that is part of what's used to calculate our rateable value. Now, what about our competitors? So let's have a look at the only other pub in the parish, the one owned by the parish councillor. And I've just found this out as research for the video, and it's just beyond belief. Now, I'm not telling you anything private because all of this is publicly available on the government website. So you can search for a rateable value for any business. You can find out what other people in your street are paying for their council tax. So I'm not doing anything wrong by displaying this publicly available information. So rateable values have just been reassessed. You've probably heard that in the news. So that's the figure that's being shown at the top, but that has not come into effect yet. And he can still appeal that. But here it is. His value is currently £12,000. So he's below the threshold of 12,500 for a discount. So it looks to me like he's not paying any business rates at all because he's getting rural relief. I note that his new value there is much higher, and I've got some theories about why that is. I'm going to talk to you about that in the next video as well. Yeah, so he's got lots of planning applications, one current at the moment that I'm going to be talking about in this video a little bit and next time. But will that then mean that he's reassessed again and it's increased? So let's do a little comparison to try and unpick where all this nonsense and valuations has come from. Because you're probably thinking, oh, it's probably fair. Well, let's see if you still think that when I've been through this comparison. Now, bear in mind, the last owners here paid a specialist consultant to help with their business rates assessment. So, for the other pub owned by the parish councillor, the only other pub in the parish, I take this information I'm going to share with you from their for sale listing that the owner has created and has been online for several years with an asking price of higher than ours. And it has the title, pub with campsite, guest rooms, and cottages in Bridgnorth for sale. So, reading the listing further, so it is just really hard to stomach, and I want to make sure I'm giving you accurate information. So, I am still looking at the government websites for business rates and council tax as I'm going through this, as well as these sales particulars. But firstly, the council tax listing for the pub has been deleted. Don't know why. Because the for sales listing says that the staff accommodation with central heating on those particulars. So I don't know why it's removed for council tax. We have to pay it. And I've told you about all the other pub owners. And there's a long list of accommodation on their own website as well. I mean, multiple times more than what we have here. There's so much information, it's difficult to even fit it all on. I mean, just comparing, first of all, with both pubs that serve food. We've got 6 pub letting rooms, they've got 3 pub letting rooms. So, reading further, he has 3 semi detached holiday let cottages, a barn with 3 bedrooms, approved of. Sorry, I can't even fit all of this on, I have to go to another page. Yeah, so that barn with 3 bedrooms approved to be another separate let. Another bungalow as another holiday let. An amenity block, which is described and what it's used for. An office building with planning to be a bunkhouse. 30 touring caravan pitches, and there's a bit of scandal with that planning permission, I can tell you, which will be in the next video. But of course, he's also serving takeaway food to those. 3 static caravans he's just been given permission for, and he has a current application for another 6 holiday lodges to be determined any day now. So what's his rateable value, did I say? £12,000 or 0 with rural relief. Before that, it was only 6,900. So clearly, for business rates purposes, a massive income potential. He's probably got no business loan because he's owned it for about 30 years and bought when property was dirt cheap. So how is his valuation so cheap with all of that income? Remember, our property had a professional assessment made by a consultant carried out by the last owners. I just don't get it. Now, none of the names of those cottages on the sales particulars appear on the council tax list either. So what the hell is going on? So there just is not parity when it comes to business rates and pubs, for example. And people just have no idea of what's going on. They think that if a pub is busy, then that means it's making a lot of money. They just don't understand. They don't understand that you have to take into account what the outgoings are before you even start thinking about profit. I mean, there's no profit in a pint, especially with all the waste. I mean, we were throwing away so much beer. So if, a keg of ale, we might have sold 1 or 2 pints, but we have to pull through beer every day down the drain, to make sure that beer is safe. It was all just going down the sink. I'm just going to have to go into that another time because I just want to stick with the online trolling now and the unfair comments. But in particular, there are a few people that pursued us across social media and on the planning portal, and they're very close to here. In fact, one of them, their family, own a holiday let very, very close to here. I can see out of the window. Now, you know what? Before we move on to the comments, I've changed my mind. I'm going to have a look at what they're actually paying for council tax and business rates. So I'm looking on those government websites again. And looking at council tax first, there are 4 listings in various names, but they've been deleted. So I can't see that they're paying any council tax at all. And I know they've got someone that lives there all the time in an annex. So that's why they're calling it a holiday let and premises. But I can't see any reason why they're not paying council tax if there's someone living there all of the time and they're calling it a premises. I really can't, especially based on what I've told you about here. Anyway, I can't see anything listed that shows that they're paying any council tax at all. Business rates. Let's have a look on that page. So it says, yeah, at the moment, the rateable value is 5,300, and they've had that reduced from 12,000 in March 2023. How the hell have they done that? But what are they actually paying of that 5,300? I could see that the rateable value goes up, but again, I'm sure they'll be appealing that. What are they actually paying? But this is the point I want to move on to. There are rules about how long a property, like a holiday let, has to be available for booking and how many days it's actually occupied. So I've just rechecked this, and I found in a search about the criteria that a holiday let has to be actually let for 105 days in England, but it's only 70 days in Shropshire because I've just checked that as well. Now, it's very rare. Now, do you know what? Should I say this or should someone be investigating? So they say themselves when they've been trolling us on the planning portal that this property sleeps more than 20 people. So it'd be really obvious, wouldn't it, if there were cars there and lights on? But I think someone should be checking how much that holiday let is actually occupied. I strongly advise that. So maybe this property doesn't even qualify for business rates because it's not really a holiday let. It should be classed as a second home. So they should be paying double council tax in Shropshire, which would probably take their council tax to over £9,000 in Knowle Sands. Can they afford it? Yeah, because if you look at their business accounts for another premises that they own, so this is also publicly viewable at Companies House, you can see that they have over £2 million in cash and cash equivalents in the bank. So why do people like us and new businesses get punished financially while the rich get richer and these vile people trolling us and their comments displayed all over social media and the planning portal allowed to get away with it? So I can try and help some people with business rates just from, what we've been through and the little bits of information that I found out. But I do really have such sympathy with pubs at the moment because business rates, I say, we don't get anything back. It's just an extortionate amount of money. If a pub is making a profit, then it's giving money to the government as corporation tax anyway. So what the hell are we paying business rates for? But I don't know, maybe some of you didn't know about rural relief and now you can apply for that because, as I say, councils are not going to tell you about it. You actually have to go to them and ask for it. But how else can you get out of business rates like we have? All right. From what I understand, you probably can't. I mean, we had to have quite a long planning battle to get permission for change of use to residential and then apply to have the business rates removed. I could tell you more about that next time. But we, in simple terms, had to convert the building to a state of no return to a pub. That was the words of the VOA, who determine the business rates. So you may have seen the picture of the blue bar at the start of this video? Well, for the VOA to show that it was no longer a pub and to take it beyond the point of no return, we didn't just have to rip everything out of the cellar. You know, it's not just about not being able to serve beer anymore. We had to rip out the bar, all the fixed furniture, such as the booth seating, take down all the signage off the building and the bottom of the driveway. So I was busy with a crowbar for a couple of days doing all of that. But it was all put to good use. It was taken away by locals and they've taken it home to make their own bars with, which seem popular these days, but doesn't help pubs. This still doesn't mean that the conversion to residential is done either, because that's a different definition. So more on that another time. It is just an ongoing drama here all of the time. So we've been, as I say, subjected to a lot of unfairness by the planning department, problems related to the purchase. I mean, we've even been taken to the small claims court several times by different organisations and people trying to bully us, but we've won every time. All right. We are fighters. We are never going to give up. Even if we were forced to leave here, I tell you what, anyone who's posted negative comments about us will be paying the price one way or another. So, you know, we've been able to park these attacks that we've been subjected to and not be distracted from what we need to do, because I put in hours every day trying to sort this place with these different things. Anyway, I hope you liked my song at the start. I played a bit of it, which does show that we can laugh at these people as well. So I'll play you the whole thing at the end. But if you want to help support us, you can download it from Bandcamp, and I've put a little QR code there for £1.50, or even make a donation if you want to, because we do still have many battles ahead, including with planning. But we are going to make sure that the truth is heard and recorded. I mean, there's a lot of stupid gobshites out there, and I just want to make sure that we have our say, but it will always be backed with evidence, which is something that they can't do. So there's a lot happening in the background, so I'm not going to publish any names, although those people know who they are and they've published their names themselves, those trolls. They're just the inspiration for the song at the moment. But I'm going to tell you some of the things that they've said and respond to them. But it is clear how stupid they are with their social media profiles showing where they work, and the planning department have even sent me their addresses. I know a lot more about them in addition to that and where to hit them hard, but these things do not need to be rushed. Time is on my side, it really is. I just leave them to dig bigger holes for themselves. I've carried on, prioritised what I need to do. Really not very bright, and you can see that with all of their spelling and punctuation marks. You can just picture them tapping away on the keyboards, trying to incite others to join in. But everything I say will have a purpose and evidence. So I've even had one particular troll, not just inciting others on local Facebook pages, but actually pursuing me on other pages about planning permission when we've been asking for advice. Now, I always take screenshots as evidence to back claims I can make in the future regarding this. I will be using those. But I don't believe I've ever even met this person. They're an absolute coward, and they've got no idea what they're dealing with me. If they'd met me or knew me, they just wouldn't dare. I mean, they've made comments such as, they always planned on running it into the ground to get planning for residential. Such a shame. I mean, you can see from how they write how thick they are. And they've repeated this claim several times, including on the planning portal. So on the 15th of November 2022, when they totally ignore what the issues are that we put in our planning application, And the crisis left after COVID, saying in poor English, reflecting, the typical low intelligence of a troll. The pub has been run down to a non-existence clientele. Question mark after a space. Oh my God. And then again on the 4th of October 2023, where they say, I would reiterate again, the public house has been ran into the ground to try and obtain a change of use. But even the planning inspector for our planning appeal specifically mentioned that there was no evidence that we had run the place into the ground. Why the hell would we do that? For God's sake. I'd invested all that money and stuck with a carbuncle of a building with no current use. Really? So I have a whole catalogue of similar comments with time-stamped screenshots from mainly this person and her family and friend, as I said, who shows on their Facebook profile where they work. And their family previously owned here, the Swan Inn. But there's others I'll be taking action against as well. But for now, we'll just continue to laugh at them, such as in our song. A lot more videos to come, but we'll always have a section at the end that tells you about our future plans. There's a lot more to say about unfairness in this country as well, especially linked to planning and pubs. But I want to tell you about some of the outrageous things that have happened here in the past and have greatly affected us. Some funny stories too. I'd say you can send us some of your stories about the Swan Inn if you are local. Just look up the email address. Do not send it to the old Swan email address because that's not going to be checked. So about the future for the Swan Inn, we're now known as Swan House, by the way. Well, we have no intention of opening as a pub. That would be absolutely crazy if you've read the financial viability report and you've been listening to all the news about pubs and the cost of living crisis. So what are we thinking at the moment? So we're thinking of the community and how we can include them. Planning history is for the next video. But apart from applying for extra accommodation to bring in extra people for the restaurant and the pub in the past, we also actually tried to apply to have a shop as part of the pub, but that was refused as well. So that's another instance where online gobshites who didn't bother to read the news articles started talking as though that refusal was a good thing. But actually, that was an application to keep the pub open, as it clearly said, and that refusal resulted in the pub closing altogether. We even had people commenting that it was a refusal for a HMO. I mean, where the hell did that come from? We never applied for that, and nor would we ever do that either. So we're thinking of having a few residential park homes or caravans, like on the sites next to us and over the road. And accommodation for people to downsize to, which would suit this area in particular because it's almost exclusively occupied by over 60s. I think there's only about 10 people in the whole of Knowle Sands that are under 60. So as well as that extra accommodation that I've suggested as an idea, we're also thinking of having some communal spaces for residents to socialise in, such as a large garden room. Now, before any other gobshites jump in with any comments and say, couldn't you have done that with a pub? Well, the vast majority of people in Knowle Sands did not use the pub. And a garden room does not carry any of the overheads that a large pub does either. So the revenue generated from that planning, so lots and lots of council tax to start with, would go some way to supporting the 125 bus service outside that I mentioned at the start, as that's under threat. And in the past, we did send out a questionnaire to everyone on the caravan site next door and the park home site opposite when we last applied for planning to keep the pub open with a shop and extra accommodation. But those questionnaires were removed from letterboxes on the site that's over the road. So we're not going to do that this time. Send me your ideas, even if you're not in the area. If you can see some potential here, send me your ideas to the email address shown on this account. and I'll even read some of them out next time. But let's finish with some fun and the song that I wrote as a tribute to the trolls out there, as we do have a good laugh at them. As I say, you can download it from Bandcamp, and the QR code will take you there, and you can help us support us with our fight and future planning applications. So I hope you found it interesting and you made it to the end. Just the song to come next, but don't forget to subscribe and you'll be notified for when the next video comes out. And remember, I'm going to focus on planning and parish councils, I think, as topical for next time, as well as more stories about here and future plans.
Blue light, late night, come and feed. Trolls type fast and their friends agree. Online chase, click and send, thinking this story's got no end. Don't troll me online, no, don't start that game. Don't troll me online, yeah, remember the name. We won once, won twice, still you cross that line. Don't troll me online. Misspelled words, letters fall, receipts stay up for one and all. Not too clever, it all shows every typo, scrolling slow. Don't troll me online, don't type it too fast. Don't troll me online, the internet last screens. Don't forget, time's on my side. Don't troll me online. You think you're safe behind the screen, but power ain't loud, it's calm and clean. I don't shout, I don't fight, I just let the truth stay online. Don't troll me online. Don't troll me online. Spell it wrong. Timestamp frozen in time. Don't troll me online, yeah, yeah.